Welcome to the Healthcare Executive Podcast, providing you with insightful commentary and developments in the world of healthcare leadership. To learn more, visit ache.org. And without further ado, your host, Chris Coraggio.
Welcome, everyone, to another Healthcare Executive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Coraggio, and we are thrilled to begin the day with Rulon Stacey. He is our guest. He is the Managing Director of Navigant's Healthcare Strategy Business Unit. And before that, he was the CEO of Fairview Health System in Minneapolis. Before that, the CEO of University of Colorado Health. And then before that, the CEO of the Poudre Valley Hospital. We're thrilled to have you, Rulon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. You got it. And you know, we wanted to have you here because the topic today is leadership in crisis. And with your past, it was very apropos that we speak with you about this. And that's what we wanted to start right away. And if we could, leadership in crisis is very near and dear to your past at Poudre Valley Hospital because the Matthew Shepard situation, which was a couple of decades ago, if you can believe it, right?
I cannot believe it, but it was, yes.
And you know, I'll leave it up to you, but if you just kind of want to talk through what you believe are the perfect traits to lead in crisis, and then if you want to talk about the Matthew Shepard situation personally, that would be great.
I appreciate you bringing that up. That was a formative part of my career that has now stuck with me for 20 years and will very literally never go away. And it was a chance. I think if I were going to take learning lessons from that, it was at that time I and the staff that I was with at Poudre Valley Health System we were reliant on our basic instincts. It was really truly just us because we were new as a team. We were new on site. The vice president of public relations had literally left the Friday before to take a job in Denver. And so we were scrambling to do the best that we knew how to do. And in the end, we all of us fell back on what is the right thing to do, what is the honorable thing to do. Nobody ever said what's going to make us the most money, what's going to represent us the best, what do we do right for this family and for this patient? Because we had the President of the United States calling us. We had NBC News calling us. We had so many hits on the website that it was crashing our website. And so it was absolutely into the fire in one day, and
no warning.
Yeah. Truly no warning. And as I go back now, 20 years later, they've written plays about this, and there's people on stage representing me, saying my words, and I'm glad that at the time I had the sense to just say, I can't worry about anything else. I've just got to be me and do what's right. And I think that history has proven that to be a good policy.
And I guess that what you just said right there at the end, I guess that's the best tip. That's the best piece of advice for someone listening. If they're wondering, how would I lead in a moment like that, is to just be yourself, common sense, do the right thing, say the right thing. Is that correct? And how hard is that to do, though?
Well, for some people, it's very hard. There are people who just don't get it, I think. I think it's easier in our careers to make nice people smart than it is to make smart people nice. And I just think we have a lot of smart people who've never become nice. And I don't have time for them. Go somewhere else, honestly. I can't. Let me give you an example of when you just revert back to doing what you think is the right thing. So Matthew Shepard had been brought into our hospital. It was on a Friday. And the world attention was focused on us. We had news trucks lined up around the hospital. I'd walk out to a press conference and think, what is this? It was the craziest thing. And finally, on Sunday morning, I got paged overhead, and it was the secretary from the White House. And she said, the president would like to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Shepard and offer his support and sympathy. And can you arrange that? I said, I'll bet you I can. So I went and talked to Dennis and Judy and asked them about that. And we agreed that at 2 o'clock that afternoon, to Mountain Time-ish, sometime, whatever time it was, President Clinton was going to call to talk to Dennis and Judy. Well, what was working in parallel to this was their other son, had wanted to go in and see Matthew, and he hadn't been able to bring himself up to do that yet. And he'd been getting up courage and getting up courage and getting up courage. And on Sunday afternoon, finally he said, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go do it. And he got up the courage, and he and Dennis and Judy walked into that. I remember seeing that. Yeah, no, I don't know why you're talking to me about this. Yeah, so
they walked
into the room to see Matthew for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I knew how much of a struggle that was for that family and how much they needed to come together. And so then I get paged overhead. I pick up the phone. Hi, this is so-and-so. I have President Clinton on the line. Oh, I forgot. They just went in to see Matthew. But what do you mean? No, well, they're not available for a few minutes? And she said, Sir, I have the President of the United States on hold. And I said, I am so sorry, but I am not going in that room. There is no way. I mean, I'm just not, I don't care who was on that call. That family has been focusing on that moment, and the good president can wait. And
that's what you told.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did. And I said,
and what was the reaction?
I said, if you'll give me his cell, I'll call him back. But we're not. But they didn't. So, but they called back in an hour, and it was done, and they worked out. And President Clinton, well, part of the deal for the Shepards was, we don't want you to make this a political. We'll talk to you if you really are concerned about us.
Sure.
But if you make it a political football, then we're not interested. And I really think the first time this ever came up was when I told this story. I don't think he ever did. I think he was true to his word.
That is a great story, and thank you for sharing that, because I think that is a perfect example, because I'm trying to get a mental picture of what you just said. You're outside, you're in a lobby or in whatever floor it was on, right outside the room, and you're talking to the White House.
Right.
And this is a once in a lifetime. I mean, who talks to the White House, right? And with the president on the line waiting. And you made the right choice, but that was a very tough choice. And going back to what you said, do the right thing.
I think so.
Right? And that was the right thing, but that was a very hard thing to not go in that room. You have the president on the line.
As I was reminded with great force.
Yes.
I have the President of the United States on hold. Well.
And you have no experience in that. So if you can, how were you able to make that decision?
So that's a very good question. When in my training did I receive training for when the president is on hold?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right? And
where is that written down?
Where is that? Which is why I think a great part of this, I've often taught young students who I mentor and teach that the great majority of what happens when you're in this role is what you learned as a kid from your mom and your dad. And when I go to graduations, the book I give is everything I ever needed to know I learned in kindergarten. I think, honestly, say nice things, put the toilet seat down when you're done. There's just good things you can do.
Yeah,
and that's the training that gets you through this.
I guess so. And I think that, I think that would be a relief to some folks maybe listening to this, that maybe we're going about thinking, it's common sense, do the right thing, have the courage. I guess courage is the word, because that was courage that you showed. That was very courageous.
I hope so.
It was. And I think that is that is the issue, that most people can't find or don't believe that they would find that courage in that moment. And with you sitting here saying, look, I wasn't trained for this. I didn't know this was going to happen, right?
I can teach anybody to read a balance sheet.
Yeah.
I can teach anybody to do a good cost-benefit analysis. What I can't teach somebody is how to have a meeting with doctors and walk out of that meeting with the doctors thinking, I know he'll never lie to me. So at least we've got that. I might not agree with him. I might not understand his position, but he did not just lie to us. And that part, there's a great room for that in our industry, and there will always be a room for that in our industry. There's a lot of people who can read a balance sheet and create projections and can calculate return on investment in 4 seconds. I can teach anybody that.
Yeah. But it's that other,
Yeah.
And you're so right about that. And that leads us to, it's a good segue, because I'd love to hear your thoughts about how you, now that you're on maybe the other side of it now, because maybe you're the person that is identifying leadership traits in someone and also influencing success when you see potential. How do you do that? You lived through that in a very personal way. But how can someone else do that? How can you identify who a good leader would be in the healthcare space? Let's put it there.
Truly, you have to have a certain acumen. You have to be able to understand the basic things, and there is certainly an intellect that you have to have. But generally, it's your people skills, it's your ability to do what you say you're going to do. It's the ability to be nice as opposed to smart. One of the parts about my background, since I'm so far in my career, I don't care who knows this, right? They can't throw me out now. I've been chair. They can't make me not chair. Oh, maybe they can, actually.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no, right? So when I went to graduate school, I got 401 on my GMAT. Today, 401 wouldn't get you in to any program anywhere. I am truly not a smart person. I mean, by every definition, I am not smart. And I would like to think, though, that history would record me as being successful.
Yes,
and
definitely.
And I think that success comes more from listening to other people, taking advantage of the people around me who are smart, being honest, working together as teams, working collaboratively, the things that occupy less than 10% of a graduate education. But those are the things I think will differentiate you. There are things that are necessary but not sufficient. Those personal characteristics are crucial, I think.
Yeah. I hear you saying self-awareness, I think, is an important thing to know that. I mean, you just, demonstrated that right there, saying you don't think you're a smart man, which I disagree with, just meeting you. But I understand what you're saying. I understand. And
There's data to the contrary. I'm just telling you.
Well, you and me are in the same boat, by the way. But I love that it's better to be nice than smart. I'm paraphrasing what you said, but that is very, very important. People need to remember that in a leadership role, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Yeah.
One of the examples I use when I talk to leaders is when I give an annual evaluation. So I can give an annual evaluation to somebody, and I can say, these are 3 things that I think you need to work on. And one person will say, oh, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. I know that you have no axe to grind against me, and you're giving me this in my own best interest. I will take that, and I will do what I can to improve with that. I can do that with somebody else, and they'll say, are you nuts? I have worked all year to do that. You don't know a thing about what you're talking about. And we get into this, and if you have to ask yourself, I think sometimes, when you go into an annual evaluation, are you number 1 or are you number 2? Because if you're number 2, your ceiling is low. If you're not going to take advice and counsel from anybody, least of all your supervisor, if you don't respect that supervisor, go somewhere else. But if you can't take that level of advice, I just think that this is going to be a short career, and don't you ever dare presume give advice to somebody else. Do us all a favor and shut up.
That's great advice. Wow. Okay, that was terrific. I before we let you go, and it's been great. Thank you, Rulon, for being here. If you can just talk briefly about your personal journey with Baldrige and where you were with that and where you are with that, and just your overall thoughts for maybe someone.
The Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award is, I believe, the best framework on earth for helping somebody who needs a framework. If I could give you a list of 70 things to do to get your organization to reach the apex of cost and quality, there are many different frameworks that people use. There are many different books that you can use. I have come to the conclusion that the criteria in the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award is the best that's available on earth. And it's hard, and which is why a lot of organizations, most organizations today, won't follow it, because it takes years to get your whole organization ingrained thinking. One of the things that we did at Poudre Valley when we received the Baldrige Award and distinguished us was that we had 5,000 employees, and by the end, 4,900 of those employees got out of bed every day with one singular goal in mind. And they all knew what they were going to do, and they knew their job to do it. I can go, if I went today to most senior leadership teams in most organizations, and I said to the 15 people in the room, will each of you write down what the purpose, the vision of this organization is? What do you guys want to be when you grow up? Mm-hmm. The chances of every one of them writing down the exact same words is 10%. When you're able to go to a senior team and ask that question, and everybody writes the same thing, and then go to the second level and everybody writes the same thing, and then go throughout the organization, I believe that in our organization, truly 4,900 of our 5,000 would have written the exact same words. That's focus. That's an organization driving to where, and Baldrige will do that like no other organization.
And how did you do that at Poudre Valley? It
took years of training leaders, weeding out the leaders who, we had lots of leaders who had the mindset that you don't have to like me, you just have to get the job done. Okay, well then you got to go because you're not going to work here. And we need the servant leader looking at the employees as customers and the managers as leaders who provide a service to those customers, measuring our customer service to our employees, and working that through the organization, and then getting everybody engaged on our vision, so that our accountants in our organization thought that their goal in life was to create world-class healthcare. They didn't think they were an accountant. They thought they were a meaningful part of a healthcare organization. Mm-hmm. And in the world today, if you're in a healthcare organization where your accountants think that they're accountants, there's room to improve.
Got it. Well, Rulon, thank you so much. I'm going to shake your hand.
Thank
you so much for being here.
Thanks.
I'm going to remember, it's better to be nice than smart. I feel so much better about myself right now.
And it's easier to make nice people smart than it is smart people nice. And it is better to be nice than smart.
I love that. Folks, if you would like to subscribe and don't miss future episodes, again, just go to the Healthcare Executive Podcast. Was that Frank? Good. What? Come on, you can. I didn't hear you. What is that? 5 stars. Oh, rate us 5 stars. I had no idea what you're saying.
So for those, let me give it.
Rulon, tell everyone to rate us for 5 stars.
I used to do color commentary for basketball and radio.
And I was a play-by-play guy. So here we go.
We are there.
Yes,
that
are you kidding
awesome.
me?
So what's happening on the side here is the peanut gallery is coming in and giving us hand signs that absolutely nobody understands.
Yeah.
But let me translate that for you.
Please.
If you don't give this episode 5 stars, I will think poorly of you for my entire life.
And you're not nice or you're not smart.
Right. So put that in a pipe and smoke it.
Folks, we'll see you next time on the Healthcare Executive Podcast.
This has been the Healthcare Executive Podcast, brought to you by the American College of Healthcare Executives. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider rating and reviewing on iTunes or your podcasting app of choice. And for more information, find us online at ache.org.